Not very many people realize this, but this is the first time in the history of American polling that pollsters are even asking, should the incumbent president step down? Should he be running at all? Should they find someone new? This is the first time that that's ever been asked. I mean, they've asked many times before if, someone's too old. Of course, they ask that every time. It's always a bunch of old guys. But this is the first time they've ever asked that question. And they've been asking it now for about a year. I think that alone should tell us something. I mean, that should be a giant flashing warning sign. And I'm going to show you guys some pretty amazing polling results in this video. But polling aside, man, it is amazing to watch what we're watching right now. I mean, the power of propaganda and gaslighting, the power these things have on the feeble Democrat mind is amazing. I mean, there are people, they watched the debate, they were horrified by what they saw. They never saw it coming. They never even heard that Biden might be slow. They thought that Joe Biden could actually show up and do it. And that is the power of propaganda. And Chris Matthews, the guy who got fired from MSNBC a few years ago, he's just one example, man. He got booked weeks ago on Bill Maher. And he thought he was going to show up on the day after the debate and he was going to be taking some sort of Democrat victory lap.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
You see the head, the way he turned that head? He wanted to, he knew the two-shot would be up there. He wanted to have his head turning like, let's watch the guy show how crazy he is. He's looking for it. Look, this election.
You're blaming that on Trump?
No, I'm watching his theatrical ability. He is playing this.
Okay, but he didn't have to do anything. I mean, he came out, it reminded me of when Mike Tyson used to knock guys out in 90 seconds. Like, that was like 2 minutes into the debate, and I went, oh, this election is over. I mean, that was like a haymaker right away.
Look, I'm watching the guy. He is so fast on the trigger. I watched him. He comes up with, well, he pulled out of Afghanistan in a disastrous way. That's true. He didn't fire anybody. He didn't fire Jake Tapper or any of the generals. That's all true. Then he'll throw in, oh, by the way, illegal people can get Medicare and Social Security. No, they can't. He just throws in the lies. He mixes up the lies with some truth.
Yeah,
And Biden is not smart enough to keep up with him. He just can't keep up with him.
Well, isn't that the whole point?
Yeah.
You need a guy to keep up with him.
You almost have to feel bad for the guy, man. He was convinced that Joe Biden's cognitive decline was all just deep fakes and cheap fakes and some conservative media conspiracy. He had no idea, man. And now he's left blaming what we saw on the way that Donald Trump looked at Joe Biden. Donald Trump is everything to these people, everything bad, but he's such an expert, such an amazing communicator. He works the media so well that the way he looked at Joe Biden has led us to where we are right now. And where we are right now is no one is buying this crap anymore. No one believes these people. Almost no one. I mean, there are still the whole vote blue, no matter who loonies, and they're going to vote for anybody with a D before their name. But I'm going to keep going, guys. But first, if you appreciate this content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so we can grow the channel and make sure we get this message to go as far as we possibly can. Really does mean a lot.
They asked a general question, should Biden, this is just in general, should he be running for president? They've asked that throughout the year. Back in February, 37% of voters said that Biden just should be running for president. Now, right after the debate, they have that number dropping to just 28%. By comparison, they asked the same question about Donald Trump post-debate. The number is 46%. Now, more specifically, in response to the debate, they asked this, what should Biden do right now in the wake of this debate? And in this CBS poll, 64%, basically 2/3 of the electorate, said he should step aside. And I think what's particularly troubling for Biden in that number, not just the fact that it's 2/3, is look at within his own party. This isn't just his political opponents saying he should get out of the race. This is worry within his own party, concern within his own party. 45% of Democrats saying that Biden should step aside. And obviously that performance, I think, just reinforcing and maybe even increasing in terms of its potency, the main concern, or one of the main concerns we've seen over and over when it comes to Biden, and that is his age. This is a Gallup poll just before the debate, and already going into the debate, 67% of voters said they considered Biden too old to be president. That's 30 points higher than the number for Donald Trump. And just take a look at the other oldest nominees in history. John McCain in 2008, Dole 96, Reagan in both of his campaigns. The number was somewhere in the 30s, even the 20s for Reagan. That Biden number is a number we've never never seen for any candidate before. And I will say Trump leads by 2 points in the new New Hampshire poll. If you can read my writing, Trump +2. And the critical thing there is in 2020, Biden carried New Hampshire by 7.5 points. So we don't have a pre-debate poll from St. Anselm was the pollster here. Their last one had been in December. They had Biden up 10 then. This is their first poll since December. But at least compared to the 2020 result in New Hampshire, their poll just after this debate is a pretty big shift.
There's some really, really wild, really interesting things here, man. Obviously, most obvious. I mean, can you believe that 55% of Democrats think that Joe Biden, civil rights leader, long haul trucker, top of his class at an HBCU, never lost a soldier, that Joe Biden, they think that Joe Biden should continue to run for president. And these are the same people that say you and me are in a cult, man. It's you can't make it up. But that was interesting. But just as interesting as that were his numbers against other old candidates. He was 30 points higher than Bob Dole, which blew my mind. 30 points higher than John McCain. Think about that. 30 points higher than John McCain. That entire campaign was nothing but Sarah Palin being a heartbeat away from the presidency. And he is 30 points ahead of that. And that's historic. I mean, there's no coming back from that. And liberals, obviously, we know they don't respect history. They don't read history. They don't care about history. And apparently they don't enjoy making history either. And Jake Tapper, though, to his credit, I'm going to give him credit. He's not going to let him get away with all this gaslight. And he jacks up Chris Coons pretty good here.
A discernible pattern of Democratic officials seemingly trying to convince you, the public, to not believe what you saw and what you heard with your eyes and with your ears on Thursday night. Democratic officials have tried to spin this in many ways. They said President Biden just had a cold. They said it was just one off night, akin to when President Obama in 2012 was rusty and seemed a little huffy. But behind the scenes, make no mistake, most Democratic officials witnessed the same shocking spectacle that you did. The difficulty that the presumptive Democratic nominee, the current president of the United States, had just articulating his basic thoughts during the 90 minutes of the debate. With all due respect, it is not honest to say that this is just one night. There have been moments like this that people have seen in front of the cameras and other moments but with cameras not there. Just 2 weeks ago, let me just show this clip. There was another moment like this, not just a senior losing a train of thought, but something else going on. Here he is. It was in an event about immigration. He tries to introduce DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and there's some sort of glitch. I don't know what it is. Let's roll that tape.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas.
I don't know what that was.
That doesn't trouble me at all, Jake.
Of course he doesn't, man. I mean, there isn't a thing that a Democrat can do that is going to trouble Chris Coons or any of these power-hungry, crooked swamp creatures. I mean, the only thing that troubles these people is the thought of losing control. I mean, these are not serious people. This is not reality that they're dealing with. And they're losing control. Finally, they're at least losing control of their finely crafted narrative.
By the president's defenders that his age was also considered an issue 4 years ago.
You know, if you look at the polling now, compare it to what was pre-debate and compare it to what was 4 years ago, it's just not even on the same planet, Anderson. If you ask voters now, does Biden have the mental fitness, in fact, to be president? Those numbers are incredibly low. The percentage who say he does not have the mental fitness, look at this. 72% say he does not have the mental fitness in order to be president right now. That's up from 65% pre-debate. But compare that to 4 years ago, the percentage of voters who said that Biden was too old. It was just 36%. That's half the level that we're looking at right now. These numbers are not anywhere close to being the same. 4 years ago, voters, for the most part, thought Joe Biden was with it. He could handle the job as president. You look at those numbers now.
I think it's important to remember that the only reason that voters thought he could handle it back then is because of these people. I mean, these are the people that allowed the guy to just slap on a mask and hide in his basement. They literally, they're responsible. They ran cover for him on every single scandal that he had. They attacked Trump for every stupid thing that they could muster, they could create. Joe Biden hasn't changed. Obviously, he's gotten worse. He's changed in that respect, but he has not been fit for this entire term. And the proof is in our performance. There is not one thing that he's been competent on or effective on. Not one thing, nothing. Then gaslight about the economy and jobs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Everything has gotten so bad that they can't even hide it anymore. They cannot control the message. And that's why the polling is changing. It's not Joe Biden that's changed. He's the same guy. He's exactly what we said he was. They just can't hide it anymore.
The fact is, voters do not even see them on the same planet. They don't think Biden's with it. They do not believe he has the mental fitness to be president. And I have to be honest with you, I don't know how he wins with the numbers that we see right now. There is no precedent for the numbers that we're seeing right now for someone running for president, letting alone getting a nomination. These are the types of numbers, when you combine them with some of the numbers that we're seeing post-debate that show him trailing Donald Trump, these are the types of numbers that could end a campaign if he can't turn them around.
There is some comparison being made between Biden's first debate performance and Ronald Reagan's, and there were questions raised after Reagan's first debate performance. He came back with a second better one.
He came back with a second better one, but the fact is, if you look at the numbers that Ronald Reagan had after that first debate, the percentage of voters who said that Ronald Reagan was too old, look at this. It was just 27%. It was 27%. Age was an issue at 27%.
That was after
the first debate. That wasn't before the first debate. That was after the first debate. And I averaged 2 polls there. So it's not like we're just looking at one number back in 84. We're looking at 2 polls, average them together. There's 27% who said that Ronald Reagan was too old. Now that number for Joe Biden, who says that he doesn't have the mental fitness to be president, is well more than double. It's 72%. Ronald Reagan was able to recover in that second debate because voters were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. The fact is, voters might have been willing to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt going to the first debate, but afterwards, I don't see it.
All right.
I don't see it either, man. I mean, obviously, I know the Democrats basically live in fantasy. I mean, everything is just created magic for them. But I think the thought that Joe Biden can bounce back from this or recover it all, that's a complete and total fantasy. I don't know where they go from here, but there is nothing that Joe Biden can do. There's nothing that Joe Biden can say that can fix this. I mean, there is no path forward for Joe. There isn't enough vote blue no matter who people out there. They have got to convince him, or they've got to bully him more like it, into stepping down so that they can have a contested convention. But obviously that's going to provide its own set of challenges.
And the country wants something new. Let them have it. Why are we fighting this inevitable desire and they can't deliver it? I mean, Trump is going to be sentenced on July the 11th. The Supreme Court is like, come on, we don't even want to discuss this. But give the people a shot. And all they're asking for is something different. And let's give it to them.
Who do you think would be strongest? Which Democrat do you think would be strongest? We've heard so many names. Governor Newsom in California, Governor Whitmer, Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania, obviously Senator Warnock, Pete Buttigieg, Vice President Harris. Who do you think has the best chance of beating Trump?
Yeah, let Democrats decide. All of these people are marvelously talented people that you and I know about, but 99% of the country doesn't know about. And you know what people will do? They will pay attention. They will listen to what Senator Warnock has to say, or Governor Newsom, or Vice President Harris, or anybody else. I don't want to give names, but let them all go out and make their case. And I think the country is concerned enough, engaged enough. It's 72%, or I know that number. I'll stick with this whole interview, and let them decide. This is our democracy. This is our country. This is our future. Just don't sit there and do something, man. Move it.
This is what happens, man. This is what happens when you manipulate, when you play games with politics. But we got to remember what they did. The Democrats manipulated the primaries so that they could push Joe on everybody and eliminate Bernie for the second presidential primary in a row. And on top of that, they literally installed Kamala Harris as vice president in what has become the most public diversity virtue signaling failure in history. I mean, they did this. They created this mess themselves. And now there is no way out for them. I mean, they're openly talking about replacing Joe. And here's the kicker, man. Not one serious person has even mentioned the vice president's name. I mean, it's freaking amazing. And apparently it's driving her crazy. But here's the thing. I mean, if they had any faith in Kamala Harris at all, Joe Biden would have stepped down years ago. But the party, they will not let Joe Biden leave the presidency. They want him to leave the race, but they won't let him leave the presidency because even Democrats, they can't stand the thought of a DEI president, Kamala Harris. They are not going to let it happen. And people see it coming. I mean, they see the writing on the wall. They see that when Joe goes, so does Kamala. And this is going to end up being it's going to be a big historic mess for Democrats.
I have spoken to some top Democrats who say that there would actually be relief if he were to step down. And one person said to me, look, everyone's counting out Kamala Harris because right now her poll numbers are below President Biden's. But if she were to be the one to carry this torch into November, there could be a method of reintroducing her to the country that could be effective with independents, with moderates, with those critical suburban women that are necessary for winning the White House.
NBC's Kristen Welker is floating the idea that should Joe Biden decide to step down from the presidential race, that could create an avenue in which Kamala Harris, his vice president, is reintroduced to American voters who get to decide who wins the general election. But Kamala Harris really isn't being seriously considered as a Biden replacement in the off chance that Biden does the right thing and step down. Right now, by the way, there's no indication that he intends to do that. His family, including Jill Biden, is urging him to stay in the race despite his horrible, terrible debate performance. Now, Politico reports that Harris's allies are frustrated with all the chatter about a possible replacement involving Gavin Newsom, the California governor, or Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer. And I want to give you some of the anonymous quotes by Harris allies to Politico. One of them says, the fact that people keep coming back to this is so offensive to so many of us. They still don't get that the message you're saying to people, to this Democratic Party, is we prefer a white person.
Oh, please.
So they're weaponizing race in order to make a case for Kamala Harris, despite the fact that she has her own voter abilities. We'll get to that in just a moment. Another Harris ally told Politico, if they think they are going to get through South Carolina bashing an effective and qualified black woman vice president, their instincts are as bad as I thought they were. I would venture to say that this Harris ally has terrible instincts.
So basically, the diversity, virtue signal, identity politics game, this is, in the end, it's ironic and it's awesome to watch, but this is what's going to completely sink the Democrats. Because either they keep things exactly the way they are, they continue elder abusing Joe Biden and doing whatever other horrible things are necessary for them to be able to maintain their power, or Joe resigns, making Kamala Harris president, which is going to make it very, very tough for any Democrat convention to back any way but her, the sitting president, or Joe remains president, but leaves a ticket. And then the delegates get together in Chicago and they choose someone that's not Kamala Harris, which that is not going to play well with the very voter that they've been expected to virtue signal to once every 4 years and forget about in between. Every single option is loser for the Democrats. I mean, and honestly, you can't have any real pity on them, man. You cannot pity these people. I mean, they have done this to themselves every single step of the way. They put identity before policy. They put agenda before ability. They put anyone and everyone and everything before the American voter, before the American citizen. They've done this to themselves, man. And another Trump presidency, that is going to be their reward. But that's just my take, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, guys, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.